Hey, what's up? Okay. All right. Okay, well, I guess I'm live. So that's what's going on right now is I am live and we are I'm doing this show, keeping it dark because the world is dark. It's a dark place, you know. I am embracing the darkness. Anyway, so what the fuck are you guys doing tonight? Because I can't I just can't. I have more research to do. I got shit I got to do. Okay, it works. So it works. In the past, I've put it in there and it hasn't worked, but today it works.
In the final lecture on the self under siege, we will discuss the work of Jean Baudrillard, a French social theorist. Actually, that now is a misnomer since one of Baudrillard's theses is the disappearance of the social. Baudrillard is perhaps the most important theorist that can be characterized as postmodern. And I have spent a lot of time, in fact, in a previous lecture series discussing the postmodern. I'm going to give a very brief characterization of it and then discuss Baudrillard's relationship to it. The self under siege in modernity has always presumed that there was a self to be under siege. But in the view of Baudrillard, society has reached a point at which it has literally been overcome by its technology, and the new and important issues aren't about things like the non-believer or the non-offender, but about the non-person. In the world of Baudrillard, social relations have disappeared between humans because humans have begun to disappear. In fact, Baudrillard thinks that reality itself is in the process of disappearing, the real, what has been learned and understood under the name of the real. All these outrageous things I've just said are worked out in a brilliant series of books which draw a lot of their power from many of the phenomena we see around us. So one way to discuss Baudrillard is to run through some of these phenomena. What Baudrillard is doing is basically to trace the symptoms and tendencies of the trajectory of the postmodern. If we were really in a postmodern society, we wouldn't still be discussing things like the self under siege or the real. They would simply have disappeared. There we would be, in a way, transparently communicating one with another, as in an earlier example when I talked about the stock market crashing due to the computer rationality. Well, if we had really reached the postmodern in its fullest sense, the way Baudrillard uses it, it would be the computers unplugging us and not the reverse. The postmodern is a blurring of the lines between human beings and machines, a blurring of the line between reality and image. It is a society, or I can't even really use that word anymore. It is a world, if you will, a grouping of the world in which reality is simply that which can be simulated, Xeroxed, copied. I mean, in a way, Baudrillard sees himself as a post-apocalyptic writer. For Baudrillard, the apocalypse has already occurred. It wasn't religious or anything. It was not atomic bombs. At some point in the development of technology, human beings ceased to be the reason of things and things took on their own reasons, technological things. Let me describe this concept of simulation just a little bit, though. Baudrillard's definition of the real itself is that which can be simulated, Xeroxed, and copied. So whether you're talking about a human body where you can make a holograph of it, or you're talking about the Bible, which you can Xerox, or whether you're talking about the sexual act, which can be simulated either through, repetitive pornographic films, or in a very near future, it will be able to be simulated with virtual reality, where you'll wear a full body suit and make love to your ego ideal, thus making it pointless to search out all the Freudian implications. You can just pick your ego ideal, punch it into the laser beam program, slip into the virtual reality suit, thus rendering that relation, even that intimate relation, sexual relation, technological, simulatable, reproducible to infinity. As I asked one of my children, why are you yelling at a machine, when he began to bang his Nintendo? And he looked at me as though I were a being from another world. And because of that, there is a postmodern trajectory. I am from another world. I'm still, as it were, caught in the modern. He's not. Why not be emotional with a machine? His peers are machine-like. We've already discussed that. I mean, in fact, what he sees on the Nintendo screen is his thrill of the day. That's the most active he's seen any simulated image that day. Guy Debord wrote a book in the 60s called The Society of the Spectacle. And what it was about how when capitalism reached a certain level of accumulation, commodities began to detach themselves and become images. And citizens who formerly had played roles as political actors began to detach themselves from their own lives and become spectators. In A Clockwork Orange, there's a great line that anticipates the postmodern when the character played by Malcolm McDowell says, "It's funny how blood isn't really blood until you video it on the screen, until you see it on a movie screen. In real life, it looks kind of brown and mucky. On the screen, it looks like more real than real blood." And this sense of the sort of hyper-reality we get with cinema, we get with television and so on, is another phenomenon Baudrillard wants to examine. I mean, we've found out that she can't particularly act or sing. She is not built well enough to be a true cybernetic sex symbol for this period, and yet she manages, because of her understanding of this situation that Baudrillard calls the hyper-real, to stay on this curve of popularity. In fact, one of the new strategies adopted by television, and it serves two functions. One is a cost function, are these reality shows. They've realized that we've become, as it were, too intoxicated with hyper-reality, with, Kojak and Super Cops and so on. So now we just have shows like Cops, where you just go to Fort Worth and film a bunch of cops being cops. That serves a good, intelligent economic interest, because you don't pay cops much just for being cops. It's not that lucrative. And it injects, well, is it reality? Well, it is compared only to this scale of hyper-reality and only under the sign of being whatever can be simulated. Clearly something significant has changed, and it has affected the very nature of what selves are, what humans are, what subjects are. When I talked about how my students had no dreams, I mean, what is there left to dream?